Did you know that in about a dozen countries around this world, you can be killed for changing your religion? All of these countries have one thing in common. They are all Muslim majority countries. If you are born a Muslim, according to Sharia law, Islamic law, and you choose to renounce the religion, you're given 3 days to repent, and if you don't, you are to be executed. I'm one of those people. My name is Yasmin Muhammad, and I'm the author of this book, Unveiled: How Western Liberals Empower Radical Islam. In that book, I talk about my experience growing up as a Muslim girl in Canada to a family of Islamists. Islamists are Muslims who believe in spreading Islam politically. Some choose to use violence, some choose to use more diplomatic means. In my book, I warn people in the West that they need to pay attention, that there are enemies amongst them. I grew up going to Islamic schools, going to the mosque, and living in an Islamic community of people who hated the West and who believed that in order for the West to gain salvation, everybody must become Muslim. The aim is to have that happen through any means necessary. When I was 19 years old, I was forced into a marriage with a member of Al-Qaeda. His name is Asaam Marzouk. He's currently in prison in Egypt. When I was married to him, I had to wear niqab, that's covering myself head to toe in black. I wore black gloves, thick black socks, and my face was entirely covered in black. Even my eyes were not showing. I had a daughter with him, and it was when I had that daughter that I realized that I needed to get out of this world. I needed to get away from him, and I needed to get away from all of these misogynist and oppressive edicts that were going to rip any idea of freedom away from my daughter. When my daughter was a little baby, her father and my mother talked about taking her to Egypt to have FGM performed on her. They wanted to take my little daughter, as soon as she was of age, to Egypt, where they were going to mutilate her perfect little body with razors, because they felt that that's what their religion demanded that they do. I knew that I had a limited time to protect my daughter and to get her out of that house before that day would come. Through a series of very difficult and very lucky events, I was able to get out of that house, get away from him, and get away from my mother as well, and to start my life all over again with my little daughter, going to university, something I never imagined I would ever be able to do. And when I was in university, I took a history of religions course. And in that course, for the first time, I was able to critically examine Islam. So I was intellectually bombarded. Simultaneously, 9/11 happened. And there I was emotionally bombarded. When the 9/11 attacks happened, everyone in the Islamic community was celebrating. This is what caused me to finally decide that I didn't want to be part of this community anymore. I didn't want my daughter to grow up in a community where people were celebrating the deaths of innocent people. Once I renounced the religion, I knew I was putting a bullseye right on my forehead. The first person to threaten to kill me was my mother. I changed my daughter's name, we moved away, and I didn't tell anybody where I was. And I lived quiet for many, many years. Eventually, after seeing a Bill Maher episode with Sam Harris and Ben Affleck, I decided that I needed to speak out. Sam Harris and Bill Maher were talking about how in Egypt, people who renounce the religion of Islam currently get sent to insane asylums but there was a poll taken that asked people in Egypt, do you think that people who renounce the religion of Islam should be executed? Close to 90% of respondents said yes. To have these two men speaking on HBO about me, essentially. I was of Egyptian descent, and I had renounced Islam, and I thought that nobody cared. But these men cared. They were talking about it as if I mattered. And that's when Ben Affleck jumped in and silenced them and called them racist.
It's gross. It's racist. It's not.
And told them that this kind of talk was similar to the anti-Semitism of calling somebody a shifty Jew.
It's like saying not your shifty Jew. You're not listening.
Sam and Bill tried to explain to Ben that standing by liberal values means standing by them across the globe and for everyone.
All I'm saying is that liberal principles like freedom of speech, freedom to practice any religion you want without fear of violence, freedom to leave a religion, equality for women, equality for minorities, including homosexuals. These are liberal principles that liberals applaud for, but then when you say in the Muslim world this is what's lacking, then they get upset.
We have been sold this meme of Islamophobia where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous.
But Ben did not want to listen. The next day, all my friends on Facebook were celebrating Ben Affleck and congratulating him for being such a great man and stopping the Islamophobia from occurring. And that's when I realized I needed to speak out. All my friends on Facebook thought that Bill Maher and Sam Harris were just straight white American men. What right did they have to speak on this topic? And so I felt, well, I'm an Arab, brown-skinned woman, and I'm going to say the exact same thing as these men. And it'll be harder to silence me because people can't use my immutable characteristics against me. And so that's why I wrote my book. Thankfully, my book has been very successful. It's been published in 15 languages, but it wasn't always that easy. I was unable to find a publisher in English, and I ended up self-publishing it myself. After writing this book, and after it got a lot of success and a lot of people read it, I was getting approached by people all over the world, telling me about their experiences, sharing with me their traumas, and asking me for support. I felt helpless. And so in order to help these people, I started an organization called Free Hearts, Free Minds. It's an organization that supports people who have renounced Islam all over the globe, and it also helps those from the LGBT community who are also at risk of persecution and execution in many Muslim-majority countries. In my organization, we not only offer individual support and group support, but we also offer a community. It's the one thing that people who renounce the religion of Islam lose. We lose our friends, we lose our family, we lose our community. We end up being all alone in the world, isolated and terrified. Clients who have gone through our program at Free Hearts, Free Minds call our organization their safe space. It's the safe space that they can finally come to, finally be heard, finally be understood without being judged and demonized. I'm very proud of the work that I'm doing with my organization, and I encourage you to look at our website, freeheartsfreeminds.com, click on testimonials, and read some of the stories from some of the people that have gone through our program. I hope you'll be encouraged to donate to help us to support even more people. I also have a podcast that I've started called the Asma Muhammad Podcast, where I generally speak with women who have overcome religious persecution. Quite often these women are coming from Muslim backgrounds, but not always. I also speak to women who grew up in Christian fundamentalist homes and even one woman who grew up in communist Russia. Growing up in a cult where you're not allowed to speak your mind, you're not allowed to share your questions, you're not allowed to even voice your opinion. When you grow up in that kind of atmosphere and you have the courage to overcome and to get yourself out of that and to break through the indoctrination, those are women that I really admire and that I really want you to hear from so that you can also be inspired by them. They are incredible women. I also interview men, not just women. I interview men who have also had to overcome, men who have been imprisoned in Iran, men who have had their jobs and their reputations torn from them because of accusations of Islamophobia. As well, I co-founded an organization called the Clarity Coalition. I co-founded it with a Muslim man. It's important to remember that even though I'm an ex-Muslim and according to the religion of Islam, I should be killed, there are a lot of Muslim people out there who disagree with these edicts. One of those people is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, the man who I co-founded this coalition with. He is a Muslim who believes that his religion can be pulled into this century. In that organization, we have people from all sorts of backgrounds, different ethnicities, different religious groups, but we all have one thing in common. We're all very concerned about political Islam. We're very concerned about people like my family and the community that I grew up in. We're very concerned about people who are wanting to Islamize the West. Please join us. Look up claritycoalition.org and click on the Join Us button.